Assalamu alaikum friends. This is Ajaz Ahmed and welcome to my DocTv. How are you friends? I hope you guys are fine. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe it and hit the bell icon to get my latest video notification. In this class, we are going to learn about skin. So we have a lot of subtopics regarding the skin. First one is skin layers, epidermis layers, epidermis histology, skin cells, epidermal cells, dermis layers, dermis histology, thick skin versus thin skin histology, sebaceous gland, Sudoriferous gland, dermal circulation, vitamin D synthesis, integumentary innervation, dermatomes. So let's move to the first topic, skin layers. The skin consists of two layers, a superficial epidermis made of epithelial tissue and a deeper dermis made of connective tissue. Beneath the skin is a layer of fatty tissue, the hypodermis. Epidermis, dermis, hypodermis. So second topic we have epidermis layers. The epidermis is made up of mostly of keratinocytes, cells that produce the fibers protein keratin. These cells are arranged in layers. The stratum corneum, the stratum granulosum, the stratum spinosum, and stratum basal. In the palms of the hands and soles of the feet, there is an additional layer called stratum lucidum, located between the stratum granulosum and stratum corneum. So come to the third topic, epidermis histology. Epidermal layers. The epidermis is a stratified squamous epithelium that is composed of 4 or 5 layers depending on its location in the body. The predominant cells, keratinocytes, are produced in the deepest layer, the stratum basal, and they differentiate as they are pushed outward, transitioning into the stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, stratum lucidum, and stratum corneum. The stratum corneum consists of 20 to 30 layers of flat, dead keratinocytes called chorionocytes, which are filled with keratin and surrounded by glycolipid. It forms the skin's protective barrier, and its cells are periodically shed and replaced. The stratum basal is the innermost epidermal layer, composed of stem cells, melanocytes, and Merkel cells. Its single layer of cuboidal or columnar stem cells divided rapidly to produce keratinocytes, which are differentiate as they are pushed outward, transitioning into each of other epidermal layers. Its melanocytes branch through the other layers to connect with keratinocytes, and they produce the pigment melanin, which determines skin color. Its Merkel cells associated with sensory nerve ending and most abundant in sensitive skin, like in the fingertips, detect light touch. Stratum spinosum. As keratinocytes are produced in the stratum basal, they are pushed outward into the stratum spinosum, forming stratum spinosum, forming several layers of connected cells that contain keratin filaments. Scattered among these keratinocytes, immune cells called epidermal dendritic or Langerhans cells detect, ingest, and process antigens. Stratum granulosum. As keratinocytes are pushed further outward into the stratum granulosum, they form 3 to 5 layers of the flattened cells with disintegrating nuclei and organelles. These cells contains keratohyalin granules which contains protein that aggregate the cytoplasmic keratin filaments, and lamellar bodies that release lipids into the extracellular space, forming the skin's protective barrier. So let's move to the skin cells. Cells of the epidermis include melanocytes, keratinocytes, Merkel cells, and Langerhans cells. Cells of the dermis include fibroblasts, which produce collagen. So now come to the epidermal cells. In addition to keratinocytes, the epidermis contains melanocytes, Langerhans cells, and Merkel cells. Melanocytes produce melanin as skin pigment. Langerhans cells assist in immune responses. Merkel cells act as a receptor for touch sensations. Melanocytes, Langerhans cells, Merkel cells. Dermis layers. The dermis consists of papillary and reticular regions and is composed of connective tissue. Touch receptor called Meissner Corpuscles exist in the papillary region. The reticular region contains nerves, sebaceous glands, and sudoriferous sweat glands, and hair follicles. Dermis histology. Dermal layers. The dermis is a strong, flexible connective tissue with two distinct layers. Its thin outer papillary layer is composed of areolar tissue, and its thick inner reticular layer is composed of dense irregular connective tissue. In this picture, we see a papillary dermis. The papillary dermis is composed of areolar tissue with loosely arranged collagen and elastic fibers and scattered fibroblasts and phagocytes. Dermal papillae, which project from its upper surface into the epidermis, contains free nerve endings, capillaries, tactile Meissner Corpuscles. Reticular dermis is composed of dense irregular connective tissue with densely arranged collagen and elastic fibers that gives the skin strength and elasticity. It contains hair follicles, sebaceous and sweat glands, sensory receptors, nails, and blood vessels. Thick skin versus thin skin histology. Skin can be classified as thin or thick based on the composition and thickness of its epidermis and dermis. Thin skin covers most of the body, whereas thick skin covers the palms of the hands and soles of the feet. Thin skin has four epidermal layers: the stratum basal, the stratum spinosum, the stratum granulosum, and stratum corneum. In addition to these layers, thick skin has fifth layer, the stratum lucidum, which lies between the stratum granulosum and the stratum corneum. Sebaceous glands. Sebaceous or oil glands produce sebum. Sebaceous glands or oil glands produce sebum or oil. This substance protects the skin and hair from drying and inhibits harmful bacteria growth. Sebaceous oil glands. Now comes to the sudoriferous glands. Sudoriferous or sweat glands produce sweat, which allow the body to regulate its temperature by cooling the skin as it evaporates. Sweat glands, sweat. So next topic we have dermal circulation. Blood vessels supply the skin with blood and help regulate body temperature. So these are the blood vessels. Vitamin D synthesis. Ultraviolet radiations from sunlight causes skin cells to produce vitamin D, which the liver and kidneys modify to promote bone development. Liver, kidneys, bones. Integumentary innervation. Sensory receptors in the skin pass signals to nerves of the peripheral nervous system. Skin, peripheral nervous system. Now comes to the last topic, dermatomes. Dermatome is a region of skin that is innervated by the sensory fibers from a single spinal nerve. Sensory signals travels from the skin through the dorsal root of the spinal nerve into the spinal cord and up to the brain. All the sacral, lumbar, thoracic and cervical spinal nerves innervate dermatomes except the first cervical spinal nerve, that is C1, which does not contain any sensory axon. Instead, the sensory information from the skin of the facial region is conveyed by cranial nerve 5, the trigeminal nerve,